Welcome back to the Own It Show. I am your host and coach, Heatherly Chapman, and I help conscious human beings transform their lives so they can live life by design instead of default. And I'm so grateful to have special guest Dana Corey here with us today to help you truly step into that leadership and own your role as the CEO in your empire. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me, Heather. Hi, everybody.
I'm so glad you're here. So, without further ado, please introduce yourself and give us all the down low on who is Dana and what do you do?
Okay, I'm Dana Corey. I'm a business strategist and coach. I help successful business owners who have at least 3 years of experience go from being the self-employed boss or owner of their business to really being the CEO leader that their company and that their life needs. I've been doing it I've been self-employed for over 30 years and this business for 10.
I love that. That's so incredible. And it is the next evolution of most businesses. And my grandfather taught me you'll never get rich from your wages, build your business. And the one thing he really wished he did was do that, was really step more into the CEO role and out of the solopreneur so that he could be more of the visionary and have more time and freedom back. And I'm really excited to talk about your tips and your mastery tips today to help people do just that, to step into that CEO and visionary of their company and build a business that doesn't rely on them.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
And so before we dive into the mastery tips, I always like to say, like, what's one piece of advice that is kind of like your guiding light that you're so glad you know now?
Um, that whether times are great or times are hard, because business ownership is such a roller coaster, that stepping into doing one action is the counterbalance to fear. It is the counterbalance to scarcity. Just take one action and then take another action, and all of a sudden you'll be flying.
I love that. So to get you out of freeze mode
Yeah,
is to
exactly.
get you into action. And I love the saying "eat the frog," right? Like do the first thing in the morning that will get you moving. Eat the frog. And there's a different way that I play with it. So instead of picking up the biggest, heaviest rock first, you actually pick up the lightest, easiest rock that gets the momentum
Yes,
going. Yes.
because you can feel accomplished, right? You do a small thing and it feels great. And you're like, oh, I can do this. And then you do the next thing. Like, oh, look, I'm doing it. And it really, really helps you move forward and know that you can do it, right? Because when you're in freeze, you're like, I can't do it.
And it just gets the ball rolling and we feel more accomplished. We build that self image. We know ourselves as someone who keeps promises to ourselves. And then we can pick up the heavier rock once we've got that momentum going. And that's learning to work with that feminine divine energy. Like, do what's easy, get the ball rolling. Then you can do that masculine work and pick up the big heavy rocks. So I love that. Get yourself out of fear and get yourself into inspired, easy action that gets the momentum going so you can truly, serve those people and get those results that you're looking for. I love it.
Yeah, totally.
And so you have some key pillars that you like to teach on, and these are going to be some of your mastery tips today. So why don't you give us a high level overview of them and then we'll dive into each one.
Well, I teach about time because we all so busy. We wear it like a mantle that we're busy, but what busyness leads to burnout, it leads to being stuck in your business. So I teach about time. I really teach about the fundamentals of how to grow your revenue, how to grow your income, how to grow your profit. So digging into the numbers in your business. I teach about how to really what leadership really means. What does that look like? Not just out there in the world, but specifically for you. What does leadership mean? What does stepping into the role of a leader mean for you? The thing about growth that is really fascinating is that in we all have a relationship with money that we don't really it's not on the tips of our tongue, right? But it becomes really evident in how available or unavailable money is to us. And so we're going to talk a little bit about our relationship to money and how to treat your money better so that it treats you better.
Love it.
And then really how everything, your business can only grow as big as you personally are willing to grow. Personal development is the core. It's the ability to hold a container. And so much of that is mindset. I always have a hard time using that word for this because it's not really mindset. I always feel like when we talk about mindset, that it's like we have a choice about it, but we actually don't generally have a choice about it. So we see the lens through which we look through. And once we see that, then we have some ability to change that lens. So we're going to talk about that.
Yeah, first we have to be observer of the lens that we're looking through to be able then to choose to change one that serves our higher self. Yes, love it. I love it. So let's dive in to the first tip, which I love, which is how to time and how to create more of it. And I just want to say, being busy is no longer sexy.
Yep. Being busy is no longer sexy. The hustle and grind, like it just doesn't serve you anymore. But even more than that, it doesn't serve your world at large at all. If you're a parent modeling the hustle and grind and being busy, you don't want your kids to grow up and just repeat that and be in burnout, right? When you're you're a business owner, everybody's watching you, your employees, your customers, right? So, okay, fundamentally, because this is a pretty big topic, it's why I work with people for so long. But fundamentally, time is created by your willingness or ability to delineate boundaries in your life. Right? So we all think boundaries are really easy. You just say no, but that's only half the picture. Because on one hand, you're saying no, but what are you saying yes to? Yeah. And when you say yes to, what are you saying no to? And you're right, we all have 24 hours in a day, but how it shows up for us, we have all heard that time is malleable or time is just a construct. And when it's not really at all helpful when, you are under a deadline and you can't just magically wave a magic wand and all of a sudden have an extra hour. Like it doesn't work like that. I'm clear we're not talking about magic here. Okay. So
we're not talking about bending time today.
But time will work with you as long as you are clear about the things that you want to spend your time doing, right? And the more you are specific and clear about what your priorities are and where you want to use that time, the more expansive time feels. Right? So, yeah.
And I just want to add, so Bob Proctor used to say, whatever you're doing right now, you're trading your life for. So I hope it serves you. And so I always encourage everyone to pick up their calendar, take a review of the last 60 to 90 days, and just know that's what you traded your life for. And everything that's in your calendar, you've allowed. And I just want that to sit in for a second. So I'm going to say it again. Everything that's in your calendar, you have allowed, either because you've set boundaries or you haven't set boundaries. And we have an opportunity every single day to choose what we do with our time. And so people often say, oh, I have to find the time. You're never going to find the time. Find it. Go find it. Go find it. You can't find time. You actually have to make time. And I love the book, The One Thing, when he talks about why most people aren't successful and they're so busy all the time is because they have so many priorities. And so what you actually need is a priority. and pick one thing to focus on. So I always encourage like one thing per quarter, one personal, one professional goal, one habit, and focus on one thing at a time, and then break that down into your calendar so that the actions that are in the calendar are actually focused and prioritized and moving you towards that goal. And if we don't do that, what happens is we get all these things, offerings in our life, and we're like, yep, 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 yep. And we often get an opportunity to test our boundaries. So this weekend, I'm prepping for our new masterclass to launch next week. And everyone and their mother wanted Heather's help with something. And I felt the frustration first when I was going to say yes to some things, and I felt that that was not setting my clear boundaries. I wouldn't have spent my time being focused and prioritized to get me towards my actions. I would have been people pleasing. And I would have been putting people above myself and my purpose and my mission. And so I had to say no. And for most people, I think that's the hardest part, is we actually have a hard time saying no because we feel like we need to validate why we're saying no. But the truth is, no is an answer. And
I always say no, no is a complete sentence.
there you go. No, not available. And then if we do allow, it's creating a boundary with what we're saying. So yes, so I can do this if as long as it looks like this. And if it doesn't, insert consequence. And I know for a lot of spiritual people, the consequence, like saying, hey, if it doesn't look like this time, we can't do it again, is the hardest part on that follow through of the boundary. So I just wanted to share that because we get to choose what we do with our time. And so actually look at your calendar right now and look at what are you trading your life for this week? And you can create more of it and you can do less and achieve more by being focused and prioritized and having boundaries.
And, can I just add one thing?
Absolutely.
Where we lose most of our time is actually in switching. So switching from thing to thing, they've done studies on this.
Yeah.
Where if you're trying to
do 3/4 of the day, it actually, isn't it? Like an absurd.
It's a huge number, because it's not just switching from topic to topic. Your brain has to reorganize itself to go from, oh, I'm working on this thing to work on this thing. This is why when I have my clients plan out their schedule, like we put things, all marketing things, try to get them all in at the same time. Financial things, all like in the same day.
Time
yes, so that your brain doesn't have to switch back and forth over and over and over again. And that really saves you time that you didn't even know that you were losing.
Yeah, and so that's why having 80 windows open on your computer is not efficient. All my high performers out there that have 20 million windows open. Every time you go to change tasks and you have to look through all those windows, you've distracted yourself. It takes like 15 minutes to reset into your activity. There's so much statistics around this quote unquote wasted time. So learning to time chunk. And I love that. So you have a marketing time chunk, you have a sales time chunk, you have a PR time chunk, and then you fill in your focused and prioritized actions for that day or that week into that time chunk, and that will change your life.
Yeah, and you stop when you're done. Don't stop when the time chunk is over, or the time block is over. If you're done before that, stop. Don't do anything. Go take a walk, right? Don't just fill it because you can. Fill it with taking care of yourself.
Love it. Love it. Nurture that self. Okay, so now that you're all going to go out and review your calendars and own your time and set boundaries and create life by design and be focused and prioritized so you can have so much more time back in your life, let's talk about how to refine your business and begin to know your numbers.
Yeah, so most people, when they think of numbers, when they're business owners, they only think about the financial numbers. And while that is really important, you should understand your P&L. You should, and so many of us will look at a P&L and go, pretend to understand it and just kind of put it away. So, you should have an either accountant or a bookkeeper on your team that can walk you through what those numbers mean. But there are numbers besides your financial numbers. And these are the numbers of the data that you have. If you've been in business for 3 years or longer, you have so much data that you don't even realize that you have, that is sitting there with all of the work that you've done for all of your past clients, and turning that data into a kind of an actionable way of finding your next clients, of increasing your revenue, right? By honing in specifically on what is the thing that you do the best? What is the result that you produce the best? Who is the person, or who is the kind of person that you do it best for? When we start in business, people talk about niching down and choosing our little, we do this work for this person. But what people don't realize is that this is a conversation that is ongoing. You need every year, you need to come back and look at, okay, this year, here are the people that I served. Here's why they came to me. This was the problem they had. This is why they hired me. This is what I did for them. This was the result. And this is what they can do now that they couldn't do before we worked together. And that data right there, when you put it in a spreadsheet and you compare from one client to a next, helps you really refine the people that you're talking to. So that's the first thing. Second thing is, you want that to, Venn diagram, right? In a Venn diagram, the overlap, you really want to make sure that the result that you produce for people are the ones that you have the most joy producing. Right? And then the third part of that Venn diagram is the piece that you can charge the most for.
Love it.
Right. Okay. So that's one kind of numbers. The other kind of numbers is all about profit. We don't talk about profit enough. We talk a lot about revenue because revenue is sexy, but you can have $1 million, $2 million, $5 million business and be bringing home 100,000, right? Or
profit is so much sexier. 100%.
So much sexier. And so in order to really understand profit, you have to understand what your profit margin is on every single thing that you sell. And you have to take into account, you have to realize that the only money coming into your business is the money that your clients pay you. And that has to pay for more than just delivering on your promise. It has to pay for your overhead. It has to pay for your labor costs. It has to pay for paying you both as if you are the person who is delivering on the promise and managing the business. It has to pay for your retirement plan, right? All of this has to come out of the clients that are paying you. So you have to keep it all. That's how you have to get clearer about pricing, is and understanding, okay, we're not just trying to be in the black. We're not just trying to just get over the hump here. A profit margin is actually specifically for something.
Yeah.
A lot of people think, oh, well, if I make, especially, spiritual, heart-led people, it's like, oh, if I charge too much, I'm exploiting people. You are not. You're the one who's taking the risk in the business. You're the one who doesn't have a company-sponsored 401k, right? You're the one who doesn't have any medical insurance if you're in the States. I know you guys are in Canada. And so all of that has to be baked into how you price your services. So I'm really passionate about this because so many of my clients are barely paying their bills, even when they're the CEO of multi-million-dollar companies.
Yeah, and I have to second that. So I wish someone gave me the book Profit first when I started my business at 25. It would have been an absolute game changer. So highly recommend that, because what most businesses do is they take their revenue, they minus their expenses, and they call that profit. What you actually want to do is take your revenue minus your profit, and you have to figure out what is the profit. Everything Dana said, like, what are you going to live off of? What are you investing for your future? What are you investing back into the business? And then it tells you, here's what you can, oh, your taxes in there, Tim, yay. And then it tells you what you can spend on expenses. And then maybe it's time to rejig the business, because I think even nowadays, a six-figure company, if 50% of that is going to expenses or even just to team alone, then where's your profit? Right? Then that puts you living above, just above the poverty line. And so you might be like super excited, and that relationship with money, which is one of your next tip, which I'm super excited to talk about, is so important because until we change that relationship with money and our habits with money, it doesn't matter if you're a six-figure CEO, seven, eight-figure CEO, your profit and how much you actually get to keep and how you manage it and your relationship with it will be a game changer, because you can be eight figures and still living on the poverty line in what you're taking home. And when we switch that and we actually change the formula of how we pay ourselves first, profit first, hence the name of the book, it really changes how we run our business and how we scale our business. And I loved how you said it's so important for us to choose what we love in the business. You know, pick your largest product that you love the most and you love doing, and it serves the people you love serving the most, and lean into that. So when my coach had us do a list recently and make a list of all the things we love doing in our business and all the things we're not loving, and we usually automate, delegate, delete, or we're really just working on like deleting those things out. There are some things that you might need to do for your business that you don't love, so we're going to hire someone or we're going to automate it. But how can we do more of what we love in our business? Because I'm pretty sure that's why we built them.
Exactly, 100%.
Yeah,
Uh,
I love it. So
should we talk about stepping into leadership?
let's dive into it. So
Uh,
next tip, stepping into leadership.
Okay, so here's the thing about leadership. Most of us look at leaders outside ourselves and think, oh, I could never be like that person, right? Whoever it is for you, whoever is that person on the pedestal that you're like, oh, they're such a great leader. And we judge ourselves, we judge ourselves about everything, but we judge ourselves and compare ourselves and our leadership style to that person.
Mm.
And then we feel like we're not a good leader. But here's the truth. Most of us are leaders in some place in our lives, just without a business. If we take the business out of it, we are leaders in some place in our lives, whether it's in your household, in your community, at your church, at, wherever it is, there is some place where you're leading others in your friend group, right? And what makes you a great leader is your innate strengths. Like I have a client who was a elementary school teacher for most of her life. And then her brother had started this business. He was like, come and work with me, be my business partner. And in fact, you get to be the CEO because I have other things I need to do. So you are the CEO. And she turned to me and she's like, I'm a teacher, not a CEO. Right. And what we came to really clearly is that her strengths are around nurturing. Her strengths are around one-on-one people skills. Her strengths are with numbers for sure. But her leadership with her team comes from caring about them. She doesn't have to be loud. She doesn't have to be a great orator. She asks really good questions and she meets with her team once a week, and then individually once a quarter, and just ask them how they are and make sure that they have everything that they need. At first, she was like, that's not leadership. And I'm like, no, that actually is real leadership. And now 3 years later, like her team, as their business grows, and they went from having 7 employees to now they have like 25 employees.
Wow.
They love working for her, right? They love working for her because she's on their side. She's behind them and she uses her strength to lead them, in the company. And so it's so important for you to know that you don't have to be somebody else to be a good leader. You be yourself. Really, really dig deep into the strengths that you have, and you will be a leader.
I love that. And I actually just saw somebody post the other day, like hire the coach that has you become the best version of you and not more like them.
Mhm.
Yeah, because we all have our own innate, unique strengths and gifts. And when we can honor that, life is so much more enjoyable and we can follow the path we're meant to follow instead of being the person we think we're supposed to be or show up the way that we think we're supposed to show up because we've seen other people do it that way. And it takes the joy out of what we're doing if it's not in our authenticity.
Oh, 100%.
I love it. And so let's dive into my favorite topic, because I love money and I love earning money and I love giving money and I love all the good things we can do with money in this current physical realm that we live in. Money is our form of exchange, unless you do energy exchanges, which I also do. And money is a super important part to talk about. It's not something that's talked about. It's not something that's taught in school, the management of it, your relationship to it. It's actually just straight up avoided in society. So let's talk. Let's talk about money and your relationship to it.
Okay, so we all have a relationship to money. We all do. And our relationship with money is very similar to relationships we have with people. And if you think about it that way, what money wants more than anything is to be taken care of. Like money wants you to be a good steward of it. It wants to have a job. When it doesn't have a job, it likes to cause mischief.
Every dollar needs a duty.
It's true. Every dollar needs a duty. And how that comes out is that, we've all heard people say money makes people evil, or I only can have just enough, or I'm a spender, right? People say that, or it's so hard to make money or make enough money. We all have our version of that relationship with money.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes what I tell people is I want you to imagine, really put yourself in money's shoes and imagine what it would be like to be in relationship with you. Do you grab at it? Do you take it and hold it really close and not let it go? Right? Do you ignore it? You said before, like we tend to ignore. Do you ignore it? And how would you react to being in a relationship with somebody who did the things that you do with money?
I want people to dig deep into that, like literally think about it, because there's one or the other, and there's the ignoring of it, which means we don't learn how to manage it. And this is, I think, what most people do, and especially like spiritual business owners, that we ignore that anything to do with the money side of the business, which doesn't create the containers for it to flourish and grow. And if it doesn't have somewhere to flow to, that container and that dollar having a duty, it can't flow.
Yeah, and money has to flow. It doesn't want to stay stagnant. It's on the move. So it comes into your life and it moves out, like not where the out is running faster than the in, right? That doesn't work either.
Yeah.
Or the in runs faster than the out. It's just like this moving, energetic thing. It's funny, when I think about money, I think about matter. Like matter, it has both mass or like gases that are both solid and gas, right? It's got two properties.
Yeah.
It's a solid thing that you exchange, but it's also an energetic flow. Okay, I often will tell my clients, I want you to think of the best relationship that you have. Like when you think about your life and the people in your life, who's the person that you have the best relationship with? And why is that relationship so good? Like what about the mechanics of that relationship make you feel good about it? Make the other person bloom or flourish? And think about what that would look like if the person on the other side of that was money. How would you behave if you were really fostering an amazing relationship with money?
That perception might have just shifted my life. So I just want to say thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, and I hope it shifted everybody as well, because I thought about my best friend. I really care about her. I'm nurturing. I check in. She just had a baby. I go up when I can, support. The love and gratitude that I share for her presence in my life, her long-standing presence in my life. I create the containers. I make sure that there's space in my calendar to spend time with her. Oh yeah, and I can see how those can play a parallel. And then I think about relationships that could use some improvement. And I'm like, oh, I could see the difference between like how someone's like best relationship and say worst, and how if you replace that with money and why exactly that might be.
Isn't that great? It's
Yeah.
really cool. And like when we talk about spending time, right? A business owner should be having a money date, like a date with your money at least every other week, where you're
Monday
sitting
money
down.
management day for me and my admin hour. Woohoo! And
Yeah,
it took a while to commit to that and
yeah,
not be avoidant.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Oftentimes we want to just stick our head in the sand because it can be scary. But I
Mhm.
don't know if you've ever had those days, right? I used to have those days where I was like, oh my God, I don't want to know. But then when I actually sat down to figure out what was happening, it was never as bad as I imagined.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that goes for a lot of things.
Totally.
Yeah, we have a story in our head. And then when we sit down, it's usually easier, smoother, everything's better. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So I want you to think about your relationship with money right now. And if that was a friend, would they keep you around or not? And is there some room for improvement with that relationship? Love that so much. Big paradigm shift there. Speaking of paradigm shifts, the next step is how we perceive the world and shifting that mindset. So let's talk about paradigm shifting and
Okay, so
perception.
first of all, how we perceive the world, for the most part, is not a choice, at, at least in general. So our perception of the world gets handed to us in three
Mhm.
different ways. The first is it comes baked into our DNA. The way that we see, the lens through which we see the world is in our DNA. Then from the age of being birth to about 5, we're absorbing how the people around us perceive the world, how they think the world works, and their beliefs about that. And it's only the third way, when we're like 5 and up, that we start making decisions about how the world works based on our own experiences. Most of people, when they hear that, they think, oh, it's a conscious thing. And it is not a conscious thing. Something will happen to you, and you will automatically make a decision about how the world works based on that thing, but it's happening in your unconscious. It's not available to you. And it gets stuck in this infrastructure of those three things, become this infrastructure in your synapses and in your neurons. And so you walk through the world with like this contact lens on,
Yeah,
let's say, right? So
yeah,
it could all be blue because that's what the belief is. And when we don't know this, which for most of us, there's a point at which we are ignorant that this is true, that we
yeah.
have beliefs that are baked in. I always say it's at this point where you and your beliefs are attached. There is no space there, and how you see the world is the way the world is.
Yes.
Is the way the world is. That just is what's true. And we believe that our beliefs or the way we interpret things are the truth with a capital T. Okay. So I always say there's very few things that are the truth with a capital T. How you know this is that if anybody else on the planet would interpret a situation, a conversation, an experience a different way than you, then what you know is that how you experienced it was truth with a little t. Gravity, which is a theory, has is truth with a capital T, because anywhere on the planet, if you drop something, if you let go of something, it is going to drop.
Yeah.
That is T, capital T kind of truth, right?
Got it. Yes.
Everything else is just an interpretation, but we don't look at it as an interpretation. We look at it as this is the way it is. So here's the tip, okay? So what we were trying to do, all we're trying to do is create a little bit of space between you and your belief, so you can see it as a belief rather than as a part of you, so that you have some freedom to choose. So what you can do is, when and we all have these beliefs. Some of them work for us and some of them don't. So leave the ones that work for you alone. Okay. It's only the ones that don't work for you that bring you, that you bump up against in your pursuit of having the life that you want, that you're trying to change. So something happens and you have a reaction to it, or a reaction to it. The first thing to do is to ask yourself, is this the only reaction I could have?
Mm.
What are some other reactions that some other people might have to this situation? And really, like, be completely silly about it, as well as come up with as many as you can. I always say go for 20 different ways that you could have reacted to this, or that somebody could have reacted. And once you see that there's other possibilities, then you're free to choose one that maybe works better for you than the one that you always choose.
I love that. So getting out of that habitual, unconscious, automated thinking and creating a space between your beliefs and your thoughts so you could observe them and actually see that there's other possibilities and perceptions that may serve you and humanity and your highest good in a better way, other than that traditional conditioning that you were born with. And that is living life by design and not default. Because actually 95 to 98% of our thoughts, feelings, and actions are automated based off that conditioning and the model of the world and the information passed on in your DNA. And so, and it's no one's fault. That's first. Let's just talk about that. You're not taught this in school. That's why I studied NLP, neuro linguistics programming, and do what I do now with timeline therapy so we can actually change those limiting beliefs. And one of my goals is to bring this to the world on a level that's in our highest good, because it's previously been used to manipulate humanity. And there's a new wave of consciousness coming to have people shift to be co-creators instead of living life by default. And so the way that Dana just explained it is probably the one of the easiest ways, is to just take a step back, separate yourself from that reoccurring thought, because it is a habitual thought pattern. Actually observe it, label it as a thought, and then start to just try on some different perceptions. The ignorance has to go, and that just means there's a lack of knowing. So you first have to create an awareness, and then we can shift our perception. And then we want to change those beliefs, and that really is beginning to shift our self-image. And those are actually the 3 key principles I'm teaching in my masterclass next week, which is our brand new masterclass, because I believe that until we learn and understand this, nothing changes. And I spent way too many years bouncing off my own upper limit because I didn't know how to shift and change these things. And I was the person who literally couldn't work any harder to get what they wanted. But until these things shift and we have that mindset shift, that we can be a co-creator instead of living by default, and we can observe our thoughts and we can have a different perception with so many possibilities, that the transformations in that are going to happen, because we are on autopilot. 95 to 98% of our thoughts, feelings, and actions, and how we show up every single day is automated based off that conditioning that Dana was talking about. So now is your opportunity to truly step into a life you've created instead of a life that you've been conditioned for, and a business you created.
It makes a huge, huge, big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to do a quick run through just to give you a reminder. Time. You can create more of it by being focused and prioritized. It's so essential. Learn how to refine your business by knowing your numbers. You could be so busy, yet only one of the 10 things that you do is actually producing profit. And what if you refined and figured out those numbers? You could lean in and do more of what you love and what's going to give you time back and increased revenue and profit. We want to step into that leadership that looks like the version of you, not the version you think it's supposed to look like. Shift your money with relationships. Shift your money relationship. Pretend money was your friend. How are you currently treating it? Would they stick around? And how can you improve that relationship? And then how we perceive the world. You actually said it best. What is it that you had said about having that mindset shift is um, how we see the world or what we perceive?
How we interpret the world. Uh, is that what you were talking about?
Yes,
Like,
yes.
yeah, like it's an interpretation of the world.
Thank you.
It's an interpretation.
Yeah, how we perceive the world is our own interpretation, and everybody is wearing a different contact lens, a different mental filter of how they perceive that world. And so begin to be open to the possibility of different interpretations, different perceptions, and different possibilities, because you could choose what possibility you want that to be, and you could start to step into that. But first, you have to be willing to have that mindset shift and separate yourself from your current belief system, which is who we identify ourselves as. But we're not our name, we're not our body, we're not our belief systems, we're not our conditioning. We are a spiritual being having a physical experience. And when we can tap into that instead of who we've been conditioned to be, like by the model of the world you grew up in, by the model of the world your grandparents grew up in, and like who's going to break that cycle? I'm going to bet it's you.
Yeah, that's great. Great recap there, Heather.
Thank you so much. I think they're so important. I wanted to go through them one more time. And so, what would be your last piece of advice and your favorite book for everybody?
Last piece of advice. Don't compare yourself to others, and don't judge yourself,
Love it.
right? Allow yourself to really be the best that you can be. Don't judge everybody else. And then, so here's a book. I love this book. It's a book that I actually tell all my clients to read first. It's called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. He talks all about your zone of genius. He talks all about the set point, not just financial set point, but really the set point you have for the ability to have good things happen to you in your life.
Oh, your set point of what you're allowing to receive.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I love it. What a great book. I am a bookworm and I haven't read that one yet. So this is why I started asking this question on the show because I'm so excited to take a look at that. And I'm just going to share that I'm reading The Alchemist right now. And I thought, I feel inclined to share that. So this is one of my favorite books. And if that suits your fancy, I dare you to be the alchemist of your life. And just thank you so much, Dana. Such a pleasure to have you on the show. I love your zone of genius. I love your wisdom. Thank you for taking all your years of experience and turning around and helping people truly create life by design and live happy and fulfilled and build businesses that set their soul on fire and leave a positive impact. So thank you so much. And I know you have a gift for us today. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, I'm also a bookworm, and part of the work that I do with my clients, I'm really clear that I'm really good at implementing other people's ideas. People specialize in one thing, like the profit first, right? I could never have written that book. I make my clients read, part of their homework is reading different books. And so I have a book list called the Breakthrough Book List. And if you go to danacorey.com/breakthrough, you can get the book list too. And it has a list of the best books that I use every single day with my clients. Plus, there are TEDx talks that we've found really helpful, and we keep adding to it all the time. And so, yeah, feel free.
I love it. I can't wait to take a look at it myself. So, guys, grab that free gift. I heard when I first really started to dive into personal development myself, it was Jim Rohn, I believe, that said, like, what if you could read a book and skip 10 years of mistakes? That's what books can do for you. They can be catalysts to quantum leaps. And so Dana's got proven books that have worked for her and her clients, plus resources. If you're more of a visual person, there's some TED Talks on there. So make sure you check that out, grab that, and so that you can also stay connected with Dana. And just thank you so much again for your wisdom and your time and your energy today. We really appreciate you.
Thanks for having me. Thanks, everybody.
Absolutely, my pleasure. So, guys, make sure you grab that resource. Thank you for the gift. And remember, stay happy, healthy, and wealthy. Expect magic and miracles. And what is the best that can happen? We'll see you on the next episode. Thank you.